name is Heather, and this is another episode of Innocence Lost. As you can see by the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about the tragic case of the Central Park Five. I actually do plan on, at a later date, going and doing a total deep dive into this because there's a lot to unpack in this case. So this is just going to be like a high-level overview of their cases, and then I'm going to do a deep dive eventually when I get a chance. But right now I'm doing a deep dive on Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey if you're interested. Their wrongful convictions, and also I've done other wrongful conviction cases that I'm working on, especially the Canton cover-up with Karen Reed. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there's seems like cover-up and corruption everywhere. So we are going to look at, I apologize for my lighting too. I mean, it's always bad because my glasses reflect. I apologize for that, but I can't help it. I can't see. Um, but my ring light thing broke and I'm out. So until I get my new one today. So I don't know when it's coming. Anyway, so we're talking. Please, before we begin, please like this video. I always forget to say that. Please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm in the sense that then YouTube will know what you like, and then it'll also help get my channel to more people besides just my subscribers. So it helps us both. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you even if you're just watching and nothing else. So thank you so much for being here. This is, like I said, the case of the Central Park Five. We're going to go through, I mean, their story's going to be the same in each of these tabs, but I'm going to go through the story, the timeline, everything, and then I'll go through the tabs and show you. So, well, first, let me show you. Okay, so these are our wrongfully convicted individuals. We've got Anton McCrae, Kevin Richardson, Yusuf Salam, Raymond Santana, and Corey Wise. So we're going to be talking about them and how they were wrongfully convicted for a brutal unaliving and, or no, I'm sorry, not unaliving. It was a brutal A and R. So a woman was attacked and brutally taken advantage of, I'll say, and left for basically dead for with very severe injuries, and left in Central Park basically to succumb to her injuries. So we're going to be talking about the night of April 19th, 1989. This was a night where there were more than 30 teenagers that were out and about in Central Park, just kind of raising amok, or whatever. They called it at that time wilding. Basically, they were just going around and being punk kids that didn't really give a regard for the law or other people, and they were being rude and attacking other individuals in the park. I'm not saying them. They were just included in this group of 30 young kids that happened to be there. They weren't necessarily the ones that were doing things like, attacking other people or, stealing from joggers or whatever they were doing. They were being rude and disruptive. And remember, they're teenagers, so that's kind of what teenagers do, but I can see how, like, a group of 30 of them would be scary and kind of uncontrollable. So on this night in April, there were like I said, more than 30 teenagers that entered Central Park, and so a series of crimes were committed, not just this one, but the worst one, the most serious crime, was the A and R of a woman named Patricia Mealy. She goes by another name in here too. What is it? I don't know. Anyways, so it's the A and R of this woman, Patricia Mealy, who is also known as the Central Park Jogger. So that's kind of her name. We're going to read about her injuries and whatnot in just a second. So here, I just wanted to give you a little background. So like I said, the story is the same for all 5 here because they're all connected. But we'll get into all the details in another time. If you want to do a deep dive, please let me know in the comments below that you would love a deep dive on this story, because this story fascinates me. The way that they were interrogated and their confessions were coerced. So, yeah, their confessions were coerced. On the night of April 19th, 1989, a 28-year-old female jogger, known as the Central Park Jogger, was brutally attacked and arred in New York's Central Park. She was found unconscious with her skull fractured. Her body temperature was at 84 degrees and 75% of her BLOOD had drained from her body. So she was on the brink of not being alive anymore. Initial police investigations quickly focused on a group of African American and Latino youths who were in police custody for a series of other attacks perpetrated in the park that night. And basically, you have a big group of people and they might not all necessarily know one another, and these 5 individuals might not have been the ones that were doing things, but when the cops come and everyone scatters, these just happen to be some that got caught. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily mean that they were doing anything wrong, other than they ran because the police were there and they were like, I'm out of here. Anyways, so the confessions. After prolonged periods of police interrogation, 5 teenagers, Yusuf Salam, Kevin Richardson, Anton McCrae, Raymond Santana, and Corey Wise all confessed to being involved in the attacks because they were coerced, and all the cops were like, oh, well, we have this one saying that you did this and this and that, and, trying to pin them all against each other. And it worked because they all then confessed to being involved in the attacks. At the time, the defendants were between the ages of 14 and 16 years of age. Let that set in. Let that set in. They were children. Teenage children, but children. They were young kids. So Raymond, McCrae, Santana, and Wise all gave videotaped confessions, which I would be happy to show on this channel if I can get them. I think they are available in full, which I would do in a deep dive if we go and do a deep dive. All right, so the trials and convictions. Confessions were presented as evidence, though they differed in the time, the location, and the description of the participants of the events that took place during the attack. At trial, the prosecutors also presented forensic evidence. A forensic analyst testified that a hair found on the victim was similar to Richardson's hair to a reasonable degree of certainty, scientific certainty. Because this is not adequate empirical data on the frequency of various class characteristics in human hair, an analyst's assertion that hairs are similar is inherently prejudicial and lacks probative value. So that should have never been allowed in court. We know now that, hair samples are really very unless you have the whole follicle, you really can't do a whole lot with all of the, with just like a piece of hair. Other than, you can compare it visually to another hair, but that doesn't give you any proof of anything. So I'm sure my hair looks like a lot of people's other people's hair. So it's not, it's not that scientific, shall we say. Also presented as evidence was a rock found near the scene of the crime that had BLOOD and hair on it, evidence that was believed to have come from the victim. The following year, all 5 teenagers were convicted in 2 separate trials of charges stemming from this attack. Antron McCrae was tried as a juvenile and convicted of R and A and he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years. So then do we have what? Richard McRae. Okay, sorry. Kevin Richardson was tried as a juvenile and convicted of attempted MRS. Follow along with me, guys, because I can't say these words. And I think I can say robbery. So there we go. All right, so he was sentenced to 5 years. And I was reading right here. See where my mouse is. All right. Sentenced to 5 to 10 years. In early 2000, oh, hold on. Let me keep going along the same path. What was I just doing? Okay. Here. So Yusuf Salam, wait, no. Oh, too far. Yusuf Salam was tried as a juvenile and convicted of R and A. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years. Raymond Santana was tried as a juvenile and convicted of R and A, and he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years. Corey Wise Then 16-year-old Corey Wise was tried as an adult and convicted of A, SA, and riot. A riot is, I mean, how can you prove that he, like, was rioting and whatever? Okay. So he got convicted on the most charges and the worst of them. He was sentenced to 5 to 15 years. Corey Wise, just because he was older, just because he was the oldest one in the group. They wanted to try him as an adult. So in early 2002, Matias Reyes, a convicted person who ends the life of other people and an artist, admitted that he alone was responsible for the attack on the Central Park jogger. Reyes had already committed another R near Central Park days earlier in 1989 using the same modus operandi, doing it in the same fashion and same way. The victim of that R had described the artist as having fresh stitches in his chin, and an investigator quickly linked Reyes to this description. Although the police had Reyes' name on file, they failed to connect Reyes to the R and A of the Central Park jogger. You know what? I should have had his name up. What was his name? Reyes? What is it? I swear, I forget my own name most of the time. Let's do a copy and paste because I just wanted to show you guys a picture of him. I should have had this ready, sorry. Let's do images, just so you get an image because we've been... Is that him? Yeah, that's him. So this is the actual perpetrator of the crime who was... He actually admitted and confessed. So he committed to another crime in the similar way that that had happened just days before. Although they had his name, they didn't connect it. Which, how do you not? Because it was just days before. So these poor innocent teens went to prison because law enforcement didn't do their job properly. And that's why we're here. So the exonerations, eventually the evidence from the crime was subjected to DNA testing. Of course, back in 1989, we didn't have DNA testing, at least not at all like we do now. If we did, it was in the very, very early stages. So, but we somehow had enough foresight to say we need to save biological material because we might be able to do something with it in the future. So luckily, they did have a sample. The DNA profile obtained from the spermatozoa found in the R kit matched the profile of Reyes. Mitochondrial DNA testing on the hairs found on one of the defendants revealed that the hairs were not related to the victim or the crime. Further testing on hairs found on the victim also matched Reyes. Neither BLOOD nor the hair found on the rock matched the victim. The evidence corroborates Reyes's confession to the crime and is consistent with the other crimes committed by Reyes. He is currently serving a life sentence for those crimes. On December 19th, 2002, on the recommendation of the Manhattan District Attorney, the convictions of the 5 men were overturned. At this point in time, yes, they're men because they went in children, and now they've seen things they never wanted to see. Thanks to the New York prison system. All right, so Anton McCrae had served 6 years in a New York State prison. The investigation of the convictions of these 5 teenagers has raised questions regarding police coercion and false confessions, which are a thing, guys. If you don't believe it, we'll look into this case and I'll show you. As well as the vulnerability of juveniles during police interrogations. Exactly, none of them had an adult or an attorney with them, and they were, some of them, interrogated for many hours without meeting their basic needs like food, water, bathroom breaks, things like that, to try to coerce a confession out of these 6 or 5 kids. So Anton McCrae got 6 years. And is there anything of note here? Not really. So they probably all say that. So 6 years. He got 6 years. Kevin Richardson got 5.5. Yusuf Salam got 6.7 years. Raymond Santana, they served that time. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they got that time. They served wrongfully convicted time. That time was wrongfully stolen from them. 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And however long, the stressors of being arrested and waiting for your trial and all that. Corey Wise, because he was on the rougher charges and the riot, and they really wanted to make an example out of him, and because they made him, they charged him as an adult, he ended up having to serve 12 years. That's 12 years of his life. Going in at 16, you're still a baby. I mean, in my opinion, even 16-year-old is still quite young. So yeah, this story breaks my heart, and I don't love it, but I love that they all got exonerated and they're all out. And the real perpetrator is sitting in prison for it, because that is the most important thing. So if you haven't heard of this story, I hope now you do know, and you have a little bit of information about wrongful convictions and coerced confessions. We will get into, I would love to get into a deep dive and play their confessions and really analyze them. So if that sounds like something you would like to do, please let me know in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up on this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye now. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeandcourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.